Well, on Wednesday, I covered King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard, and it's really interesting because I feel like Motorpsycho is kind of the PROG version of these guys, even if they have like 2 decades on them. So, yeah, let's dive into some Motorpsycho. Yay! By Motorpsycho. It's interesting. The front cover has Motorpsycho with a question mark, and it's just yay! So Motorpsycho is a Norwegian progressive rock band getting their start in the very late 80s, putting out a plethora of albums, and I feel like everybody's entry point might be just a little bit different. I got introduced to them with their 2012 album, I think it was released in 2012, of the Death Defying Unicorn, and that was one of my favorite albums of that year. It blew me away, the sounds that I was hearing, this kind of orchestration and orchestra rock album. I hadn't heard anything like it before. And from there, I just did a deep dive listening to Timothy's Monster, Heavy Metal Fruit, and I got excited for every album that came afterwards, like Still Life in Eggplant, Here Be Monsters, Behind the Sun, and like these guys have been putting out an album a year for quite a while. And I feel like, much like King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard, they're not really confining themselves to one specific genre either, but they're always kind of playing around with this progressive rock outfit. They're one of the few rooted in rock music. And so that's kind of been their MO for a while. And honestly, as I mentioned, they've been putting out an album a year for quite a while. I think the big stretch started in 2019 with The Crucible, going into The All Is One. And those two albums just, still great. The All Is One was one of my favorite albums from 2020. Kingdom of Oblivion, that came out in 2021, was a little bit of a dud. It was way too overblown. It felt more like a Scraps album than an actual flushed out record. And the album they put out last year of Ancient Astronauts, it didn't really wow me. It was definitely a step up from Kingdom of Oblivion, but I honestly haven't returned to it all that often. So now we're into Yay, the album that they dropped this past week. There wasn't a whole lot of fanfare. There wasn't a whole lot of, promotional bits leading up to it, at least to my ears or to my senses. And this one kind of takes a sidestep from what they've usually been playing it in. And honestly, in my mind, it is about time because, as much as I love the sounds from the All Is One and the Crucible, one of the things that drew me into Motorpsycho is how they're able to play with genres. They're always trying something a little bit different. They're always trying something a little bit new. And in this one, it feels a little bit more like a pastel work. It feels a little bit more of a singer-songwriter from the 60s and 70s. I'm getting flavors of Hall & Oates, of Simon and Garfunkel, of Crosby, Stills, Nash & Young. This little bit more folky, a little bit more singer-songwriter influences. And we even have that kind of interlay of harmonizations and layers on a number of these tracks. They're a lot more subdued. We don't have this, bombastic blow down the doors rock that we had for a lot of their past records. It's just a very pleasant and very nice album to listen to, which is something that, you can't necessarily say for half of their albums. And I appreciate when they kind of step out of their comfort zone and play something very, very accessible and interesting. This is something that I could play for my mom, and she wouldn't have a problem with that. Now, even with this, they still have a few really experimental and a lot of very fun and quirky tracks on here. And the most notable example of this is Hotel Daedalus, I think is how you pronounce it. The Greek figure, the father of Icarus and, the god of, wisdom and knowledge and whatnot. It's, almost into the 8-minute marks. It's got this really big soundscape. It's got that rockin' tinge that I love. They root themselves down and they're playing around in this jammy kind of station. So even along this album that has songs like Patterns, like Dank State, like WCA, which is what comes after, it's got this very jovial, very fun, very celebratory of sounds that is just kind of very pleasant in that, I really enjoy that kind of aspect to it. So in that case, like there's not a whole lot else to talk about on this record, and I feel like Motorpsycho went into this album with the intent of just making a very pleasant, very folk rock style of music that we would have heard from the late 60s and into the early 70s that I really appreciate and I'll come back to. I wouldn't necessarily say this is their best work, but, you know, I'll also say that I'll probably be listening to this more so than I did Ancient Astronauts or Kingdom of Oblivion for sure. I mean, I already have. And I feel like I keep getting more and more out of it. It's one of those, like, less is more. So even though that you don't have those big bombastic sounds like you did for their previous records, especially their past 4 records or whatnot, you're still getting a lot of very pleasant, very layered, very fun soundscapes on here, and one that I will applaud. And they're still not afraid to, you know, have their own style and have their own signatures on there. So yeah, this is one that I've been really loving, and I will say, Yay from Motorpsycho is one that I would absolutely pick up in physical format. As I mentioned, this isn't necessarily their best work, but I have a feeling this will probably be one of the albums that I listen to the most. You know, I feel like this one's going to be up there with Heavy Metal Fruit and The Death-Defying Unicorn in terms of how often I play it, mainly because of the runtime. It's, you know, it's 42 minutes long, so that in and of itself creates a very digestible and very enjoyable listen. I don't have to sit down for like an hour and a half to 2 hours and like spend listening to a single album. It's just kind of like a pleasant here and then gone kind of an album, and I think you guys will really enjoy. So that's what I've got for Yay from Motorpsycho. What did you guys think about this album? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Whatever you thought, please let me know by commenting down below. And yeah, I'm going to take a little bit of a break next week. My partner and I are going away on a vacation, and I won't be able to film or record. And I'm almost like I'm doing this intentionally so I can have a little bit of time to listen through some of the backlog of albums that I haven't got to quite yet. So yeah, expect that. So expect no album reviews or any videos from me next week. Maybe even a little bit into the week after, because I'll need some time to get back into the groove of things and queue up a bunch of album reviews. So yeah, if I'm gone for like the next, we'll say 2 weeks, don't be too surprised. But yeah, we've got some great albums coming down the turnpikes to keep us busy. I've got a lot of albums to listen to and get really into. And yeah, I hope you guys will enjoy that. And I hope you guys will enjoy Yay from Motorpsycho. So thank you all so much for watching. As always, you guys are definitely the best. And until next time, notes out.